Hey guys, so in the last session we were almost done with the monetary policy and how RBI is managing it, the inflation targeting. There was some minor topics left, basically one or two small topics which we are going to wind up here. And then I've decided to club this session with a new topic, which is inflation. Not exactly a totally new topic. It is somewhat related to the monetary and fiscal policy. All these are interrelated topics. So we are going to check how RBI is conducting its monetary policy. Then there was some small explanation of the graph, which we will cover, after which we will start inflation within the same session and continue it in the next ones. All right. So a quick revision of what we have already done so far. In the last session, we were doing, we were discussing about the how the monetary policy of RBI works, and we discussed that inflation is a condition of too much money in the hands of people chasing too less of goods. So there are not many goods, or the supply is the same at the previous level, but suddenly people have got a lot of money in their hand. It could be due to a sudden inflow of foreign exchange from the outside, or it could be due to because the economy did well, there was growth, so GDP has risen, everyone has got a good appraisal, and suddenly people have a lot of money in their hands. And we know that the general tendency of an economy is, of a growing economy, is the towards inflation only. Yeah, so there is some inflation which is desirable and which is a part and parcel. It's going to happen. So what happens is, in this situation, it is a situation of inflation. Somewhat it is desirable, but beyond a certain limit, RBI has to step in and try to control it. Now, how RBI does it is, so the technical definition of inflation is a general increase in the price level of goods and services. And you know, to understand it, working definition is that there is too much money in the hands of people, which is chasing too less or too little of goods. So in this case, what RBI has to do is it has to suck out this excess liquidity from the hands of people, from the market, so that the balance between the equilibrium between demand and supply can be maintained or restored. RBI has its policy rate, as we call it, because it is the main tool of monetary policy. Monetary Policy Committee uses this, and it is known as repo rate. And of course, these rates we were discussing in the last sessions that they keep on changing. Not very frequently, maybe after 20, 25 years, there is a need of changing it. So earlier it used to be the bank rate, which was the long-term lending rate, but now it is the policy rate. It is the overnight, so it is a short-term rate because it is an overnight lending rate at which RBI is lending to the banks. Okay, so the banks need money to meet their temporary mismatches of balance sheet, and RBI gives this loan to the banks overnight at repo rate. Currently, it is at 4.4%. Now, to fight inflation, what RBI will do, it will increase this repo rate. So let us say it increases it from 4% to 4.4%. Now, it is becoming costlier for the banks to lend from the RBI, right? Because the rate has arisen. So what they will do, they will transmit this cost to the lenders, okay, to keep or maintain their profit. So what they will do, they will increase the interest rates. Of course, they have to do this. This is a moral suasion. Otherwise, banks have no interest in doing this. But RBI will say we have risen the interest rate, the repo rate. So you have to basically increase your the rate. You would be increasing your rate of lending, but yes, you also have to increase your this is a moral thing which RBI does with the banks, that you have to increase your deposit rates also. Okay, so let us say the lending rate for home loans or car loans was earlier 7%, and it has risen to 9%. Okay, sorry about that. Uh, So what will happen? There is now it is becoming costlier for people to purchase vehicles, to purchase houses, or to pursue further education, or just take a personal loan, just like that. So lenders will, the people will also try to reduce their consumption. The supply of money is now decrease. I mean, the excess money which is there in the hands of people, it is now decreasing, and hence inflation is fought. Now, if RBI has to fight deflation in a situation when there is no consumption in the economy, people do not want to consume because of the high prices. So what RBI will do, it will decrease the policy rate, and as a result, the reverse effect will take place, and deflation will be controlled. So when RBI is using this first tactic of controlling inflation by increasing the policy rate, it is basically uh, narrowing down the supply of money, or the excess liquidity in the market, by increasing this policy rate, which is why this is known as contractionary money policy. Okay, and conversely, this is known as expansionary policy. Okay, so we will just do this briefly here. Yeah, Monetary Policy Committee. We will discuss this when we are talking about inflation. So what happens is, the monetary policy, which is followed by the RBI, and it is followed through its Monetary Policy Committee, okay, which has a mandate of meeting at least 4 times in a year, if I'm not wrong. So the first kind is expansionary policy. Okay, it is known as expansionary policy because RBI is increasing the money supply in the hands of people. Okay, so increase of money supply with people. I would say a better term is consumers. Okay, they can be retail consumers, or individual people. Hence, this is known as expansionary policy. It is also known as dovish policy. Okay, so there are two kinds of birds. One is dove, and the one is hawk. Okay, so hawk is the hunter, and dove is like a prey. Okay, so dove stands for, if I am talking about sentiments, then dove is something which is soft. Okay, so this is where RBI is trying to be soft on the consumers. So which is why this is known as dovish policy. It is also known as easy money policy because now money is easy in the hands of people. Okay. On the other hand, if RBI is following the policy of increasing the repo rate, then it is known as contractionary policy. It is also known as hawkish stance or hawkish policy, and it is also known as dear money policy because now money is dear. Okay, dear here means it is costly. The items become dearer to you means they have become expensive. So now it is expensive to consume, it is expensive to take a loan, it is expensive to start your own venture. Okay, so this is an increase of repo rate, okay, which is also known as policy rate, and it results in decrease of rupees in the hands of consumers. Okay, on the other hand, conversely, there is a decrease of repo rate, or the policy rate as we call it, and it results in an increase of rupees or money in the hands of consumers. Okay, so this was about the monetary policy. Let it be. Now we need to see what is the effect of this monetary policy, which is being done by RBI on the supply and demand for money. So we had this curve at the uh, beginning of this chapter, which was talking about the supply and demand for money. And under normal circumstances, we were checking. So the supply of money is the long-term supply, of course, it remains like that, which is by RBI. But the demand for money is the demand for liquidity and the preference for liquidity. And we saw that at any point of time, a person has the choice of keeping liquid money in his hands or to invest it in some kind of bond. The general term we were calling was bond, which had a market rate of interest to offer. And we were just looking at the opportunity cost. So we were calculating and comparing the differences between holding the money today in my hand, which is like, let us say, if it is 100 rupees, then I'm holding 100 rupees only. There is no interest rate. But let us say I'm investing these 100 rupees in a bond. So what I would be calculating the present value of the future stream of cash flows, which would be happening to me depending on the market rate of interest. We had done this example that if there is 100 rupees invested at 5% per annum for 2 years, then the present value of market of cash flow would be somewhere around 109. Okay, and if this interest rate is increased to 6%, this present value of holding the cash is coming down. So we saw that the price of a bond is inversely proportional to the interest rate. This concept is more elaborate in the FM chapter and not very much important here. But yes, to understand it better, you can always go through these calculations. So we saw that as the interest rate is increasing, the demand for money is coming down. The demand for holding money in the liquid form. And why is it coming down? Because the price of bond is falling down. So it is more attractive to purchase a bond. If the prices of the shares of, let us say, Tata Motors is falling today, then me as an investor, it is sensible for me to purchase that bond and sell it off at a later time when the prices actually rise, right? So I would rather not put my money in liquid form. I would put it in the uh, bond form. Now, this was about movement along the curve, and we saw that there is a general equilibrium. Okay, so this general equilibrium only means that if I have a bond worth 100 rupees and at 5% of interest rate, its present value of cash flows is coming out to be 109, then this bond is not going to sell for 100 rupees in the market. There is a competitive bidding for these shares. Let us say this is the price of Tata Motors shares. So this bond is going to be sold at this equilibrium price. It would be sold at 109, even though the face value, the value which is printed on the coupon says 100. Okay, and the moment this market, because the share market is volatile, the prices rise and fall. The moment the prices for this bond cross 109 rupees, this bond becomes unattractive to the investors. Why would somebody want to purchase a bond at 111 rupees when the return which it is going to offer at current price is 109, right? This is just to, I don't want you to get confused, but this is just to talk about how, when it is attractive and not attractive to hold the bond. So there is an equilibrium, a general equilibrium, which is established in the market. Okay. Now, this was so much about movement along the curve. We are going to now discuss the effect of monetary policy on movement, uh, the shifting of the curve, as we call it. Okay. Now, let us say RBI is following an expansionary policy. Expansionary policy is also known as hawkish stance or dear money policy. What it does, expansionary policy is going to, uh, yeah, it is. I'm sorry, that is dovish policy. Expansionary is dovish or easy money policy. It is going to put more money in the hands of consumers. Now, what happens if I, as a consumer, I, as a salaried person, have more money in my hand and my food, clothes, and shelter demands are already met? My basic demands are already met. What I will do with this extra money? I will try to invest it somewhere, right? I will try to put it in the bank and earn a savings interest rate, or I would put it in FDs, or if the gold is cheaper, I would purchase gold. I might go for land. I might purchase a vehicle. But again, vehicle is not an investment from this point of view. It is a depreciation. But yeah, let us say I purchase a land. So these uh, bonds which I'm purchasing with this extra money, this is actually causing the price of these bonds to go up. Demand is rising, so the price is rising. Now, when price of bond rises, we know that the rate of interest will decline because this is market. The market adjusts itself. Now, what is happening? I had a rate of interest. I'll explain this with a graph. Okay. RBI has followed an expansionary monetary policy, right? So it has increased the supply of money in the economy. So the MS curve, which is vertical to the interest rate line, earlier it was at this level, and now it is increasing to MS dash. Okay. Now what happens? The interest rate which I have, and this is the money. Okay, the amount of money. The interest rate is actually decreasing. It is declining. So a bond which was earlier offering a market rate of interest at R is now R dash. As a result of this, the price of the bond has also declined. Now we know, sorry, the price of bond has increased. Yeah. Now we know that this R is the interest rate. It is the opportunity cost or the price of holding money in my liquid form. Okay. Now it is if this price of holding money is actually declining, it means that it is now less expensive to hold the money, right? So the rate of interest is declining, so the prices of bonds are rising. Okay. So as a result, it is more lucrative for me to hold my money in the liquid form. Okay. I'll just check this once. Sorry about that. This topic is really confusing, so it has to be revisited multiple times. So yeah, we were talking that with the expansionary policy, with the supply of this money, extra money, the interest rate has decreased. This interest rate is the opportunity cost for holding liquid money. Okay. So this opportunity cost has decreased, so it is more lucrative to hold the money in liquid form. So this equilibrium, which was earlier established, it has actually settled at a lower price. So this opportunity cost for holding the money has decreased, and the liquidity demand for money has increased. So now people, instead of putting their money in a bond, let us say bond ki jagah pe we can assume gold. The prices of gold have increased. Would you still go and purchase gold, or would you put that money in your savings bank? Of course, you would not purchase gold. Okay. So I hope this is clear. In case it is not clear, we can always discuss this uh, over the group chats, and or you can also revisit this video. Now, there is a special case here, which is known as liquidity trap. Uh, what happens here is, I'll explain this using the graph only. Let us say that the interest rate, the R% interest rate is already low enough. Now everybody is anticipating or expecting it to rise in the future. Okay. So we saw here that when the uh, interest rate is decreasing, the liquidity preference for money is increasing. Okay, let us say, but this is not very good for the economy, because the government wants us to invest so that growth can be there. But let us say the rate of interest is already very low. This is irrespective of the expansionary or contractionary policy. The market is already down, and nobody is offering you a good rate of interest. There is no good return on purchasing a land or gold, and everybody is expecting it to rise. So now, at this point of time, nobody wants to put their money into gold or into land. Everybody is anticipating that there would be a capital loss, because it has gone way beyond, way low. Okay. So, and everybody wants to hold their money in the liquid form. Now, even if government thinks, this is a situation of deflation, I need an expansionary monetary policy. Just like in this case, I need to shift this MS curve to the right. And just not to spoil this diagram, I'll draw a very faint. Yeah, this is faint enough. Let us say this is the MS curve, and government wants this MS curve to rise. And even if the government increases it here by following an expansionary policy, you would see that people are still not investing. The people are still holding the money in liquid form because the interest rate has gone way beyond. This is a very tricky situation because even after government has reduced the home loan rates and everything by reducing the repo rate, the policy rate, nobody wants to invest now. Everybody wants liquid demand for money. So you can see that this MD, which is the demand for money, it is tending to infinity at this R min. R max is the maximum rate of interest which can go into this economy at the current level of supply and demand of money. And R minimum, R minimum pay, it is tending to infinity. This is a trap which is known as liquidity trap. No, people don't want to come out of here. Okay, so it's a very tricky situation, and other fiscal policy measures have to be taken place to reduce this. Okay, I'll let this faint line be here. So this was the topic which was left, and we are already done with it. Now we are going to start with a new topic altogether, and that is inflation. Okay, a very interesting topic. Most of it is theory. I will not spend much time on theory because once you have got hold of the definition in the exam, you can actually invent, not invent, but you can actually write down theory. Okay, so what is inflation? हिंदी में इसको we call it मुद्रास्फीति और महंगाई. Okay, the technical definition is persistent increase. Okay, it's not an increase here and there. It is the persistent increase in the average price level of goods and services. Okay, it's not that if the price of sugar has suddenly shot up and it has become twice because suddenly there was a new research which says that sugar is very good for health, and all that old research is crap. You should actually consume sugar, and people who are actually very health conscious, they start consuming more and more sugar, hypothetically. So the price of sugar has risen, but as compared to it, the price of other vegetables, fruits, and pulses and cereals has not risen. So that's not inflation. That's simply a rise in the price of sugar. So it has to be an average price level or a general price level of the economy. We will see how to determine what is general enough to be called a price level in the economy, but it has to be a persistent increase in the average or general price level of goods and services in the economy. It is known as inflation. Okay, so this is the technical definition. And then there is a working definition or an understanding definition, which has worked very well for me. So I tend to believe in this one. It is simply too much money in the hands of people which is chasing too less of products. Okay, my income has suddenly increased twice, and I'm very passionate about eating tomatoes. So now I want to just double and triple my surplus of tomatoes. Unfortunately, everyone in my locality and my society has got an appraisal, and people are, for some strange reason, they are too obsessed with tomatoes here. Everyone is going to the vegetable market and telling just give us twice or thrice the quantity of tomatoes. So, and we are willing to pay even a higher price for it. Again, that is a situation of inflation. Okay, now some inflation in the economy is always desirable. The general tendency of a growing economy is towards inflation. Okay, if there is growth in the economy, there is inflation, and we will see that even Ashok sir has discussed this multiple times, that when there are twin demands, which especially when Dr. Rajan as a governor of RBI had to fight, it was the twin demands of fighting growth or inflation and unemployment. Okay, but usually it's not like that. This was a situation of what we call as stagflation, but usually in a growing economy, when there is a growth of GDP, growth in the prices of goods and services, and there is also a growth in employment, because when the economy is growing, we need more workforce to work and produce the goods and services. So there is increased employment. Then some inflation is always there, because that's how competition works. So if there is healthy competition, then people will tend to sell their goods and services at a higher price, and some inflation is always desirable. It is when inflation starts affecting the people beyond a certain limit, it is then that the government has to step in. And mind it, even if there is very less of inflation now, people would still, so the common person would still complain. My tendency is give me everything for free. But uh, some inflation is desirable, and even though people feel that the prices of things have risen this year as compared to the last year, or 10 years back this was costing so much, now it is costing more than thrice. uh, we have to understand that uh, I don't know how to put it, but if uh, this inflation is not there, in the long run, this is actually going to hurt the common man. If the prices of goods do not keep rising, then eventually I would be out of job. I would be out of the employment workforce, because when the prices are not rising, there is less demand. So the producer has less incentive to produce the goods and services, and then it has less incentive to pay its workforce or its employees. So it will fire the people. It will do cost cutting. Okay. Now, when does inflation hurt and how does it hurt? This is a general discussion. We won't spend much time on it. I will just cover some topics which are actually, some points which are actually very insightful. And let me just put one thing here, lest I forget it. It's developed versus developing economies. I just remembered I had missed this in the notes. Okay, we will see for this as well. Now, of course, inflation is going to hurt the poorest of the poor the most, because because inequality. These are the straight off people who only have so much money that they can sustain their basic needs. And if the basic uh, food, clothing, and shelter becomes expensive, then it is going to affect them. Working class, we can club it under consumption class. So it is going to hit the people who are consuming things differently. Of course, the worst affected would be the poorest of the poor or the marginalized people. Okay, slightly less affected would be the rural, agricultural, or urban laborers. Okay, again, these are the people on limited means of income. When it comes to the well-off people, or the middle class, the salaried people, a greater proportion of their income would be gone for consumption. If your income has not risen and the market is becoming costly, then you would be saving less and you would be investing more, spending more on the basic consumption. Okay, it is going to affect. So there is one more term. It's not important for the exam. It's known as dosanomics. Okay, again related to Dr. Raghuram Rajan when he was the governor of RBI, and he was trying to curb inflation. So some critics said, this is going to hurt the people with limited income and the pensioners, because what you're doing, you're increasing the interest rates. So as a result of this, uh, the you know the actual money which the people, because this interest rate is not going to translate into the savings back interest rate, and this is the interest rate which is translating to lending rates, but this is going to hit the pensioners the most. So Dr. Rajan said that it is better to have less money in your hands to spend than to have the inflation, because it is going to hit this strata more, salaried people. So there are always some trade-offs which we have to do. Okay, I'll remove this. I don't want to cause any confusions. So this is about how inflation is hitting other various people. The investment climate, of course, it will come down, because you know people have less incentive to invest. There's more focus on saving as much money as we can. Okay, so banks have a reduced lending base because it is very difficult to service the debt. So debt servicing is becoming high. Now, what is debt servicing? It is repaying the debt. So let us say you have taken a loan from the bank, and the interest rates have not changed. Okay, so the interest rate is still 8%, but now inflation has taken place. Inflation is in the picture, so it is becoming costlier to even service this 8% of loan. Okay, it helps the debt, it helps the creditors, but it is going to hit the debtors. Okay. I'm checking for a few more things which I might be missing, but that's fine. As we keep on remembering that, we will keep on covering it. Okay. Then again, if there is a sustained inflation, then there is a huge risk of reduced production, because goods and services, the prices are rising and people are not purchasing it. Then eventually the producers will have less incentive to produce them. And then there will be a situation of recession. Why? Because the producers start cutting down on their production. As a result, GDP goes down, people are out of workforce. And this is a tricky situation which we call as stagflation. We will discuss it in the next page. Again, one more thing is developed versus developing economies. So let us say there is an inflation of 4%. Okay, so this 4% is not universal. It is going to hit the developed countries more and the developing countries less. Why? Because developed countries have, pretty much sustained and consistent levels of everything. There is a sustained level of growth in everything, and even a slight deviation or slight disturbance, it actually disrupts that system a bit too much, because everything is very defined, very formalized. Whereas for the developing economies, they generally have a higher tendency of, uh, you know, uh, tolerating this inflation. Again, let us say if I'm taking 4% of the GDP of USA versus the 4% of GDP of, let us say, a country like Ghana or Congo in the Africa, then obviously you can assume, you can imagine the amount of difference which is there. So the developed countries are much more sensitive, and which is why their central banks are much more, agile and vigilant about tackling inflation. Okay, there are countries where inflation has gone to 400%. Japan and Greece are struggling badly. There are countries. One more thing to discuss here is that if inflation is uh, going beyond limit, then the currency, there is a devaluation of currency or depreciation of currency. So you must be knowing about this country. It is Venezuela, if I'm not wrong, in South America. So even though it has high reserves of natural oil, uh, natural gas, uh, because of the recession, sustained recession, I think its currency has depreciated by more than 1,000%. Inflation is hitting already 4,000% or something, and now their currency has no more value. So they have devalued their currency, and now they have adopted Bitcoin or some cryptocurrency, which they are adopting as their currency now. Now this is in direct relation to the starting of our session, where we were talking about money being a legal tender and having a sovereign guarantee on which it is backed. Now, in case of Venezuela, this currency has no confidence. So even if I give you like 500 bucks of Venezuelan currency, I think it was earlier it tried to peg itself to the US dollar, but even that did not work. Uh, but let us say I give you 500 bucks of US dollar, but you don't have confidence in it. You think it is worth, piecemeal. So you would not be, you know, getting that confidence. So this is the importance of having a stable government, having a stable economic growth, sustained policies, and which increases the investors' confidence. There are international rating agencies like Moody's and Standards and Poor's, S&P Global, which are actually rating our currencies. Okay, so to determine the credit worthiness, it is just like credit score for individuals. Okay. Now, there are some key terms. Only 4 minutes of this meeting is remaining, so we will discuss the main part of inflation in the next session. I'll just touch the key terms. Inflation, we have already seen, rise of price. What is deflation? It is negative inflation if the GDP growth is in the negative. Okay, it is termed as deflation. Okay, the prices, the rate of rise of prices or the rate of change of prices in the negative. There's one more term, very important, which is disinflation. Please do not confuse it with deflation. This is still a scenario of inflation, but there is a decrease in the rate of inflation. Let us say inflation was earlier at 6%. So a commodity which was earlier available, let us say 1 kg of apples was available at 100 rupees. Now it is available at 106 rupees. Let us say due to monetary policies and due to contractionary monetary policies, this inflation comes down to 4%. So 100 kgs of apples are now still costly, but they are costing me 104 rupees. So there is a decrease in the level of inflation. It is still inflation. It is not that 100 rupees is costing me 95 rupees. In that case, this would be deflation, and this is disinflation. Okay. I'll just maybe I'll change it into a different color. Okay. So this is this is disinflation and this is deflation. Okay. So please don't confuse between these two words. All right. The next thing is recession. Recession is nothing but, it has many technical definitions, depends on country to country, but usually we define it as a negative GDP growth of more than 2 consecutive quarters. The economy is formally said to be entering into recession now. Sustained recessions can become depression, and then Great Depression. So these are just terms. Uh, I feel that keeping such terms is actually making lose the significance of these. But yes, they are very technical definitions uh, in certain contexts. Okay, I'll first discuss hyperinflation. Next, hyperinflation is when inflation has gone out of control. We were talking about Venezuela. We have more examples like Japan. We have Greece. Okay. Uh, Turkey is in the making. Okay. Turkey is actually going to enter the stage. Pakistan. Okay. Venezuela is there. So there are many such. Sri Lanka में inflation बहुत ज़्यादा हो गया था last year. Last year maybe. Okay. So hyperinflation is when it has gone beyond control. Not just 4-5%. It is now more than 20-30%, and some extraordinary measures have to be taken. Okay. Now we will talk about stagflation. So to discuss stagflation, okay, it's less than a minute. We'll discuss this in the next session.